Help me reach 2,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I never imagined that a piece of paper could change everything I thought I knew about my life. I'm Nathan, 38, from Chicago, and for 15 years, I believed in the kind of marriage that friends envied. Claire, my wife, was vibrant, quick-witted, and had a smile that could light up a room. She was everything people said you should want in a partner: intelligent, funny, and impossibly charming. I wasn't perfect, far from it, but I worked hard. I ran a small tech consultancy, long hours, but enough to support the life we had built together. For the first decade, we were what you call solid. We argued occasionally, sure, but our fights never lingered. We had weekend rituals, dinners out, movie nights, and the kind of intimacy that made both of us feel like we were the only two people in the world. I was attentive. Claire laughed at my jokes, and I felt proud that I could make her smile, even after a long day. Friends would say we were an example, and I believed it. Then, slowly, things started to change. Small cracks at first. She stopped laughing at my humor, not because I was bad, but because her attention had shifted. Her phone was always in her hand. Texts, emails, scrolling endlessly. The energy that had once filled our apartment dimmed. I blamed work stress at first. I cooked more dinners, kept the apartment spotless, tried to plan little surprises, a weekend getaway here, a thoughtful gift there. None of it mattered. I noticed her withdrawing emotionally, but I still hoped. I still believed the person I had married was still inside her somewhere, waiting for me to find her. And then the night came that I couldn't ignore it. Claire sat across from me at the dining table, her face lit only by the dim kitchen light. She said almost casually, "I don't know if I love you the way I used to." That's all. No yelling, no tears, just that quiet, deadly statement. My stomach sank. For a week afterward, I tried to talk, to reason, to reconnect. Nothing worked. She was gone. Not physically, not yet, but her heart and mind were no longer in the marriage. Fast forward a few months, and we were in the middle of divorce proceedings. I had never imagined that what we were about to go through could feel like a war. Claire hired a high-powered attorney. Every move calculated. Every word meant to intimidate. I hired my own counsel, trying to match strategy for strategy. But I didn't want this to become ugly. I just wanted fairness. Yet as the day of the trial approached, I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. Walking into the courthouse that morning felt surreal. The marble floors, the cold metal railings, the muted buzz of distant conversations. It all seemed exaggerated somehow, like the world had turned its volume up just to watch us unravel. Claire was already there when I arrived. She looked immaculate. Every detail of her appearance carefully considered, her hair perfect, her makeup flawless. She was smiling, though I knew that smile didn't reach her eyes. I tried to say hello, tried to bridge the gap, but she barely glanced at me. Her attorney whispered instructions, and she nodded. There was a confidence there that I envied and hated in equal measure. When the trial began, the initial proceedings were formal, almost sterile. Documents, witnesses, financial disclosures, the same kind of procedural back and forth you'd expect. But the tension between us was palpable. Every glance, every breath felt loaded. I tried to remain composed, but it wasn't easy. The court was crowded, full of strangers who could sense, perhaps, the weight of years of betrayal and unspoken resentment between us. The way she looked at me when the judge asked a routine question. It was a smirk, barely perceptible, but sharp enough to cut through any professional decorum. I remember the moment clearly, a brief exchange about our shared assets. I made a simple statement, calm, factual, explaining the numbers. Claire leaned back in her chair, crossed her legs, and laughed. Not a polite laugh, not a soft chuckle, but a sharp, mocking laugh that echoed through the courtroom. Every head turned. I felt the color drain from my face. I had expected hostility, icy stares, perhaps even verbal sparring, but not that. That laugh was worse than an insult. It was a declaration that she had no respect for me, that she found my presence, my words, my very being inconsequential. I gritted my teeth and tried to respond, but the words caught in my throat. The judge's gaze shifted between us, curious, mildly annoyed. My lawyer gave me a subtle nod, as if to say, "Keep your composure." But my mind was a storm. The years, the devotion, the countless sacrifices, all felt like they had been dismissed in a heartbeat. That laugh was more than mockery. It was a final, tangible proof that this chapter of my life had ended long before the papers were signed. For a moment, I considered walking out, simply standing, turning around, and leaving her and the courtroom to their judgment. But something deeper stirred inside me. Anger? No. Sadness? Partially. Something else. Something primal. A need to reclaim agency. To show that I wasn't broken. That I wasn't going to be humiliated in this theater of judgment. My pulse raced. I could feel every eye in the room on us. Claire, seated in her perfect posture, thought she had me. She had no idea what was coming next. I took a deep breath and made a decision that would change the tone of the entire courtroom. A decision I knew would shock everyone. And leaving it, I stood there for a heartbeat. The courtroom quiet around me. Every whisper, every shuffling of papers seemed amplified. Claire's eyes were fixed on me, her smirk fading just slightly as she noticed the intensity in my gaze. I felt a surge of clarity. The kind you only get when every ounce of restraint finally aligns with your conviction. I wasn't going to be dismissed. I wasn't going to be laughed at, mocked, or treated like a footnote in someone else's narrative. Slowly, deliberately, I unbuttoned my suit jacket. The room shifted. Murmurs began to rise, soft at first, then louder. People craned their necks, tried to understand what I was doing. My lawyer's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of concern passing over his face. But he said nothing. I moved with purpose, unbuttoning the shirt beneath the jacket, revealing the physique I had maintained through years of stress, work, and late-night training. Not for vanity, but for my own discipline. The effect was instantaneous. The whispers turned into audible gasps. Claire's mouth fell open slightly, her eyes wide, not just at the audacity of my action, but at the message it conveyed. I wasn't performing. I wasn't acting out of anger. This was a statement of presence, of ownership over myself, of reclaiming dignity in the face of humiliation. "Everyone in this room," I said, my voice steady, resonant, cutting through the chatter, "is here to witness something far bigger than financial disputes or legal technicalities. This is about respect. This is about understanding that years of commitment, loyalty, and integrity are not to be discarded with a laugh." The judge's gavel tapped lightly, demanding silence. Claire's attorney shifted uncomfortably, glancing at my lawyer, clearly uncertain how to respond. The court reporter paused, pen hovering over the paper, capturing every word. I didn't shout. I didn't plead. I simply let the room absorb my presence. The muscles in my shoulders tensed, the subtle definition of my arms catching the courtroom light. It was almost symbolic. A body that had been disrespected, laughed at, and underestimated now commanding attention without force or aggression. For a moment, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. Claire finally broke her gaze, turning slightly, trying to regain composure. Her laughter was gone, replaced by something I couldn't quite read. Shock, anger, perhaps fear. I didn't wait for her reaction. I didn't need it. I had taken control of my own narrative. The trial continued, but the energy had shifted entirely. Where before proceedings had been clinical and icy, now there was a tension that underscored every word. Witnesses spoke. The attorneys argued, but everyone's focus flickered back to me, to the man who had been quietly underestimated, now impossible to ignore. Every cross-examination carried the unspoken weight of that brief, bold act. Every objection, every document reading, now felt charged with a new gravity. Later, when I returned to the hallway for a brief break, whispers followed me. People I didn't know offered nods of acknowledgement, subtle, almost conspiratorial glances. Some of the staff, secretaries, and even other lawyers lingered, unable to resist the ripple of astonishment my act had caused. Claire's best friend, seated in the gallery, finally shook her head, a quiet understanding passing over her expression. For once, she was silent, unable to manipulate or mock. By the time we reached the settlement discussion, the entire tone of the courtroom had changed. Where Claire had hoped to dominate with charm and sharp wit, She now faced a man whose dignity could not be undermined, whose presence was undeniable, and whose resolve radiated through every carefully measured word. I spoke calmly, logically, yet with unmistakable authority, negotiating not only terms but a reclamation of my own self-worth. When the judge finally signed off on the settlement, the room felt lighter, almost surreal. Claire left first, her posture rigid, her usual smirk replaced by a thin line of frustration. I stayed for a moment, letting the quiet sink in, absorbing the gravity of what had happened. I had gone in to face humiliation, but I left having commanded respect, not through aggression or shouting, but through presence, self-control, and an audacious declaration that I would no longer be laughed at, dismissed, or invisible. Walking out of the courthouse into the cold afternoon air, I felt something I hadn't in years, a sense of unshakable freedom. The sun glinted off the city streets. People moved around me, unaware of the drama that had unfolded just moments before. My hands were still shaking slightly, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of standing my ground, of reclaiming the dignity I had been denied. Claire's laughter, once a cruel instrument, now echoed only in my memory, powerless and impotent. What had been intended, as ridicule became a catalyst for my awakening. I had faced the shame, the tension, the judgment of strangers, and I had emerged whole, stronger, and completely in control of my life once again. I walked to my car, took a deep breath, and finally exhaled the weight I had been carrying for months. That laughter, that courtroom, that moment, it no longer held power over me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly seen, truly respected, and completely free.